Jack Ebling here with Dan Kilbridge at Spartan Stadium. Press coverage before the bye week. Michigan State getting its bye week late before game 11, but might be the best time imaginable, Dan.
Exactly, because they've got a few injuries across the board. We've discussed those. But the thing is, it sounds like they're all relatively minor, and they will be back for the Purdue game. Maybe Chris McDonald is the only question mark there, but Dantonio said he could return. So really, I think they're in good shape, and they'll be, in great shape health-wise once the Purdue game kicks off.
A bye week is no guarantee of success. In fact, teams tend to do a little worse than you might imagine after the bye week. But it's always good for a coach with some banged up players, and he can look at his list of things for the week, and number one is keep fresh.
Yeah, and not only physically, but mentally, I think, too, especially when you consider the season the Spartans have had. With every win, you get talked about more in the national spotlight, and I think they've got to feel that at least a little bit as far as each game being the most important game of the season, really taking on a lot of significance. That's got to be exhausting both physically and mentally, and I think this is maybe a time for the Spartans to kind of step back from that a little bit, reflect on the season they had, and then refocus on the two remaining games in the bowl game.
People think of a bye week and what it brings, and they think in terms of bumps and bruises, healing, getting a little bit healthier, but there's more than that to it. There's the mental aspect, as you suggested, and also what it does for the coaches. Gives them a chance to recharge their batteries for this stretch drive and allows them to go and get a full week of recruiting in. So they'll be doing some of that over the week.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, that all the assistant coaches will be out recruiting this week, and Dantonio says it is a little easier to do that when your team's 9-1. That can really help persuade some guys who want to win. And Dantonio also said he'll be spending the weekend watching college football, going to catch Purdue-Michigan game, and just be kind of, as he said before, just be sort of a normal person for the week. Work a few light days here this week with some practice on Thursday, a little bit of lifting, but overall just a week for everyone to recharge their batteries.
We know he's also going to be watching Penn State, Ohio State with great interest. Not that he doesn't always watch Ohio State, but he'll have a particular interest in that game this week. And so he'll have the 12 o'clock game and a 3:30 game, and as he said, he can sit down with a piece of fruit.
It's no more salt, so the popcorn is out, but hey, a banana and apple, that'll do just fine as long as there's a good football game on.
And I know the recruiting aspect is foremost with a lot of fans, and it is with coaches too at this point of the season, but Michigan State is in great position recruiting-wise, and they're awaiting word this week from D'Anthony Arnett from Saginaw to see what he will do, and that would be a great boost to any recruiting class.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a very talented receiver, and he could definitely complement a nice recruiting class that the Spartans have already compiled with guys like Lawrence Thomas and playmakers like that. So I think, we'll have to stay tuned to Arnett and see what he does there.
One of the big assets for us this week is on Friday, we don't have to do predictions, which I always forget to mention. And we've been pretty accurate with that this year.
Yeah, you've been pretty good the last 2 weeks. You nailed Minnesota's score. You had them low and pretty close at the other game too. So I've been slipping a little bit, but maybe the bye week for us, we'll refresh, get back on track, and get our predictions better than ever for Purdue.
Well, you haven't picked against Michigan State this year. I did at Iowa, and I'm still not sure what I think of the Penn State game, but Michigan State right now only concerned with Purdue. Just as a Michigan State basketball program, only concerned with Eastern Michigan at this point. And we got a very upbeat Tom Izzo. I do not recall Tom Izzo in 16 seasons as a head coach more positive in the month of November.
You think he's always finding something to not necessarily complain about, but always something to harp on, something they need to do better. And there's been a little bit of that as far as the transition defense goes. He wasn't very pleased with last night. But after the opener against Saginaw Valley State, he was very pleased. I was surprised. Usually you think this is a time where he kind of, does his post-game thing where he yells at everyone and tells the freshmen, this is how it's going to be. You're going to do things my way. I don't care if you win by 30. This year seems pretty happy with everything. I don't know what that means, but I think it means that we'll be in for an interesting season come Friday.
When you win your first exhibition over Saginaw Valley State by 44 and they give Michigan the scare of their lives and only lose by 9, and then you get a 30-point win over University of Nebraska Omaha, something's going right, but he has a lot of pieces, a very deep team. It's just a matter for everyone to come together and for him to get some people healthy. Didn't have Delvon Rowe last night, was a little bit under the weather. He should be back, but probably not going to have Mike Keebler, who's turned into a pretty important guy with Corey Lucius out for this game. And the question is, who's going to get the minutes at the point that Kalen Lucas doesn't?
Yeah, well, it's got to be Corey Lucius is the one who fills in immediately, and I think, well, he'll be out too, so it won't be Corey Lucius. Izzo is going to have some trouble with that. I think it'll be Keith Appling, the freshman, who will get a lot of the minutes. He's been very explosive and just shows that finishing ability when driving to the basket, so I think this will be some valuable experience for him to play in a real game and maybe show Izzo that he is capable of giving him significant minutes this year.
Eastern Michigan has a new point guard too, so maybe it won't be quite as big a factor as it could be otherwise. But Michigan State ready for action, the season opener, 8:30, a little bit later start than normal, Friday night at Breslin Center. We'll be back with more later this week. Jack Ebling and Dan Kilbridge, press coverage for SpartanTailgate.com.